kill up 15 or 20, mow them down right in front of you. And there was a P-47 came over one day. He circled around 2 or 3 times, and we didn't see him for 3 or 4 days. And the next time he come, it was 4 or 5 of them loaded with sea rations. And he came over like us and dropped the sea ration. And of course we couldn't get out there and get it, because the Germans just laid down fire. You know, they would lay down. When I say lay down, they'd cross fire, one gun over here and one gun over there, and cross fire. You know, and you couldn't cross that fire. They got the sea rations. We didn't get the sea ration. We would eat up with lice. And I got down sick with no windows in the buildings and nothing but concrete floor, no bunks, no nothing. And I got down sick and couldn't breathe. And I think it was pneumonia or something. I don't know what it was, but I asked. I couldn't get in air. And they took me over to, they call it the dispensary, but it wasn't a thing in the world, but another place just like that, you know. You lay down on the floor. An old German doctor came along, and I asked him for a lemon. And he didn't give me I didn't get no lemon. But the food wasn't no better. But you know, I started getting better. But the way we got out of Mussolini's studio was I went to sleep. And sometime during that night, I dreamed that the doors flew open and the sun beam was so bright coming through that dust. But anyway, getting back up to the Latarina, young boys, 18 years old, turned gray-headed overnight. And we all turned yellow. Eyeballs, fingernails, everything turned yellow. You know, your body was for begging, you know, begging for vitamins and stuff like that you didn't have. But we got all right. I was moved out from this place, Latarina. I don't remember exactly when, but we were put on 40 by 8s. And there were so many of us in there that we couldn't move. And you had a hole at each end. You had a hole over here and a hole over there, about that big around with barbed wire over it. On back of the train, there was a guard, and then middle ways was the guard, and you had 3 guards to the train that was riding overhead in the cars. And we, on our way to Germany, because back then we didn't know where we were going, but on our way to Germany, I reckon through the Po Valley, and when we got on 40 by 8s from Latarina, we went from there to the Po Valley. There was a camp up there, which wasn't no better. And we stayed there a couple of days. And then we got back on the 40 by 8s. And then we went from there to Munich, Germany. We were strafed, the train was strafed. And we had quite a few of them in our car, box car, that you just cut all the pieces. Some of them laying there holding their guts in the hand, you know. boys that were dying, so wasn't nothing we could do for them, you know. We got to, when we got to Germany, the train was bombed, and the guards let us out, and we jerked our shirts off and let our backs be like a silhouette POW. And I don't know whether that did any good or not, but it stopped. Then we were put back on the train. From there we went to Stalag 7A, which is the largest Stalag in Germany, Stalag 7A. And there I was given a note, a little sheet of paper, already worded. All I had to do was sign it. And they sent that by submarine to this country. And ham operators all over Canada, all over the world, picked up those messages and forwarded those cards, you know, little postcards. And I have several of them that your son, you know, Jesse Ellison, is a POW. And I was registered with Stalag 7A. My number is 11890. And I was put on a train from there to Memmingen, Germany, which is headed towards the south part of Germany, towards the Alps Mountains. And that camp doesn't exist anymore. They tore that camp down. Stalag 7A is still there, but 7B was torn down after Liberation Day. And we arrived there, and I think we stayed there in Stalag 7B for about 2 days, and I was assigned to a working commando, which was anywhere they wanted you to go. And it was 167 of us, I think 162, I don't forgot now. I think it's 167 of us, were sent to a German air base, Luftwaffe they call it, right out of Memmingen. And about 2 miles out of Memmingen, about 4 miles from Stalag 7B. We were put in a barracks, little barracks that had straw mattresses and wooden bunks. It would two to the bunk, and that's where we stayed. And the air base was right straight across from us. So I'd say within 15-minute walk. And that's where they took us in there, and we cut grass, baled hay. We dug gun emplacements, 88 gun emplacements. We camouflaged runways. They put us out there, and they had a pattern. We had to follow that pattern when we camouflaged runways. And we did just about anything that you could think of. They had us there. We worked in the garden. We moved German engines around, ME-109s, ME-210s, those big, long, liquid-cooled engines. We moved them around. We placed them, you know, wherever they wanted them. It was 4 tremendous big hangars. It was a big air base. And they had a 4-alarm system. If the if the enemy was coming, you know, they would set off an alarm, you know. And the German would take us to cover. And then after the alarm gave an all clear sign, siren. Then we went back out and started back to work. So one day at 11 o'clock, we were on the runway, and I happened to look up at 45-degree angle. When I looked up, I saw 4 waves of B-17s coming. And I looked over at the German guard, and I told him, I says, that's I told him, it's Americans. It's American airplane. No. He said, no, those are German. And when those planes got straight over, here comes the bombs. And we right on the target, the runway. And I remember I hollered and told them, I said, they are not going to bomb the runways. Stay on the runways. I said, if you leave the runways, you're going to get killed. And we started to running. And that German outran me. That's a fact. And I was a pretty fast runner. That runway was at least a mile long, the best I can remember. But they hit the hangars first. And I can see the hangars now, and I can see them walking around in the hangars when the bombs hit. They totally demolished that airport. They got everything. The first 2 waves of planes got the airport. The last 2 got the ammunition train in Memmingen. And they hit when they hit there, when they bombed there, they destroyed tanks and everything for Anzio. And I saw German soldiers, the rifles driven through the head, the end of the barrel, through the head, through the steel helmet. And that German steel helmet's thick helmet, through it too. And him leaning up like that, and the rifles up through his head. You know, that's what concussion would do for you. But they dropped personnel bombs. They dropped little T-90 personnel bombs. They come 8 to the rack. And those racks got steel rings around them like that. And they dropped those, and anything walking, it would get it. But it just so happened we didn't get hit. It was one of us that got shrapnel in his rear end, and it wasn't bad. And but anyway, we were made. Well, when we ran to the end of the runway on down to a little village, and I don't remember the name of the village. I don't think it even had a name, but. Then they rounded us up again and took us back to Stalag, took us back to the barracks. And this is all in the same day now. They backed up a German truck, and it had a canvas. It was covered up in canvas, the back end. It was a machine gun. And they said that we had a shortwave radio, that none of us were hurt. They says that Germans were killed by the thousands. And they went into our barracks and started tearing our beds down, ripping up the floors, everything, trying to find that shortwave radio. If we had one, I don't know about it. We could have had one, but I don't know about it. I didn't know about it. But anyway, we, the commandants, he says, and I was in the first lineup too, to be killed. And they took us and lined us up, took our hands, put them both over our heads like that, over our eyes, and they were ready to kill us. And all of a sudden it stopped. and came out and told us we were going back to Stalag 7B, just like that. No, wait a minute. That's later. But they didn't shoot us. They covered the gun back up, put the cover over the back end of the truck, and away they went. We found out later that the Geneva Convention man was at Stalag 7B, and that's what saved us there. But then they kept us there at the barracks, across from the air base, and that night the British came in and strafed the barracks, and it was some of them killed there. But you couldn't put your fingers nowhere that you didn't put in a 50 caliber machine gun hole. And they really did pepper that building pretty good. But the next day they got us up, and we went out there and had to dig out the dead in the air raid shelters and all. And they did give us some vodka or something, to help us out on that. I didn't do that particular job, but they put me out there digging delayed action bombs out, bombs that is going to go off in next day or the next day, something like that. But I didn't I didn't have to do that very long because they brought in some political prisoners and put them on that. Then they moved us all out and sent us to Memmingen, to Stalag 7B. Stayed there for about a day, and they put us on a train for Immenstadt. That's a little town, 30 kilometers, about 30 kilometers from Lake Constance. They put us, we got on the train. We thought that was the prettiest little town. And it is, today it's a resort, just like Gatlinburg, places like that. And that was in August. But on July, getting back to Memmingen, I failed to give you the time, 11:05, never forget it. That's when those planes bombed, 11:05. But it so happened that I was in Poston's drugstore one day, right after when I got home, and I was talking, and David Adamy and Jack Wilson jumped up and said, "Name that place again." And I told them, I said, Memmingen Air Base. And they said, "Well, that was us. We were the ones that were bombing that place." David Adamy and Jack Wilson both. And I told them the damage it did. And but it was two Cheraw pilots they came from Italy, right over the Alps Mountains. But when we got to when we got to Immenstadt, Germany, we were assigned a little garage, and we went into the garage. There wasn't no bunks, no nothing, So the burgomaster, we were to work for the burgomaster, and of course, you can see weakness right quick, So we kind of shook it up to him, and he gave us lumber, so we built the bunks. And it was one bunk on top of another bunk, and straw mattresses. And he gave us some plaster and all. We put a wall in, and we plastered it with straw. Made it pretty good. And it was 2 rooms, and I stayed in the first room. We had one room sideways. And I have a picture of all that. That was sent to me by a German author was writing a book on us. And I'm going to jump the gun. But anyway, we cut timber, we snaked timber, and we dug snowbank houses out. We beat the troop train and bring the wounded to the field hospital. We never got any sleep. We just and we dug ditches. We ran the honey wagon. We, Lord of mercy. We just anything you can think. Oh, I worked in the operating room. We cut German legs off, gangrene, had gangrene, and cut them off, and see, our barracks, a little hut that we stayed in, was right there by the hospital. And we were right at Lake Constance, and we could get our food partials. And we would receive our food partials first thing. They were white trucks with red crosses, GI 2-ton trucks, and they would come by and they'd give so many, well, we got one a week until closer up till the end of the war. The Germans started confiscating them. They took them all. And, but now, when you stay in the town, right in the heart of town, and the women get to knowing you, and you can trade. See, we used to, just like buy little flyers that they put out, IGA and all those. We do the same thing. But now we didn't put them out, we put it on the board. One cigarette would bring 2 loaves of bread, or 1 square of a chocolate bar. We got a little D-bar cut down about that long, and had 3 little squares. One of them brought so much, or a whole one would bring you 5 loaves of bread and some cheese, stuff like that. So we used it for trade more than for eating. Coffee, tea. It was a well-balanced little box. You got cigarettes, mostly Chesterfield cigarettes, and 20 grand. And then you got Prince Albert canned tobacco and a pipe. You got all that to start off with. Your first beginners, you got soap and all that stuff, your toilet articles and everything. And of course, with the old German guard, we had him bought over. That he had a date that night, and he was wanting a chocolate bar, and we gave him a chocolate bar. And of course, he couldn't talk. We would tell him, we would tell the burgomaster or the captain, the capitan as they call it, we'd tell him, send him to the Russian front. And so we had him that way. But as far as escaping, there was no way to escape, not with wooden shoes on, not across those Alps mountains. And cause we talked it over with the old German civilians. We had a German civilian that worked with us, had 2 of them. One of them was Tony Bacata, and he's dead now. I had written that family, I had written them, and all the little children that used to follow us when we were working on the street, shoveling snow and stuff like that, or digging a ditch or something. The children would come around you for chewing gum, And if we had a pack of chewing gum, we used that for propaganda purposes, They didn't have no chewing gum. The children go back and tell the parents, and here comes the parents, And there was a little girl named Inger I think she's around 12 years old. And she took a liking to me as a child, And I would slip over there, and correspond the best I could with her, So back here in 96, I believe it was, I wrote a letter to the burgomaster, the mayor of Immenstadt, along with our picture, 2 pictures of us as a group there in Immenstadt. And those pictures of the day are in the archives and over there in Immenstadt, in the museum. And, but anyway, I asked to speak to, in my letter, I particularly asked for this little girl named Inger, you know, and I got her as she is today, her husband, and she runs an art studio there in Immenstadt, you know. But, and also one of the German nurses there in the hospital, we call Lazaret, in the hospital, she's in Copper's Cove, Texas, and she's been and spent the night with me and all. It's funny how you can be enemies one time and you turn out to be real good friends, and we've been to see her. She married a GI soldier, and they live in Copper's Cove, Texas. But one evening, we knew about the German women there wasn't no men, it was all women. All the men they were in the army. But anyway, we, right at the very end, we knew about where the Americans were all the time through them. They'd come by and slip it under pine straw, a note under pine straw, something like that. And we knew every move that was going on. And so just before Liberation Day, they got us, took us from down at our little hut and moved us up at the hospital and put us in the basement. So we knew something was going to come off then. We knew they were hiding us. But anyway, they hid us in the basement. Now, some parts of that has been blanked out. I don't remember because Anna Dodge, the lady I was telling you about, there was a nurse there in the hospital from Copper's Cove, Texas. She's told me things that I don't remember, that I was there. But I remember when I walked out in the hall, this little black French Moroccan came running down the stairs. And he was dressed up like a GI. And so we knew we were liberated. So the first thing I grabbed was Hitler's statue right there in the aisle. I grabbed it and threw it down the stairs and busted it all to pieces. But when we got upstairs, there was dead German doctors all on the floor. The SS had came through there killing them, you know, and killed the doctors and all. They would have killed us too if they would have known we were there, you know. But the hospital did get bombed. They threw personnel bombs right. The Americans did threw personnel bombs right through the window, and done a lot of damage to wounded soldiers and all. But that was about 5:30, April the 30th, 1945. And after that, we went running out on the street like we were wild, you know, like you take a dog and hem him up for a month and turn him loose. And we went up to the mayor's house and got his automobile, and but we took it back. Then we had a motorcycle, threw a brick through a window in showroom, and got a motorcycle. And after we were liberated, we were on the street 2 or 3 days later, on the street there in Memmingen, Immenstadt, and the whole town was just full, you know, occupational troops, you know, black French Moroccans and everything, and we'd get our gas off the tanks, and it was American gas. That's one reason that we got it. We knew it was American stuff, and they didn't argue with us, and one afternoon, I'd say around 2 or 3 o'clock, a GI truck came through. And I don't remember how we got their attention or what, but it was 101st Airborne paratroopers. They want to know how to get to Kempton. We said, we know how to get to Kempton. They said, you speak English? He said, yeah, we speak English. He said, we're Americans. So we've been prisoners of war. He said, jump on the truck and we'll go to Kempton.